Although they work behind the scenes, Supreme Court law clerks play a vital role in preparing the justices for hearings. We asked Senator Lee to draw from his experience to explain the important work performed by the clerks and share some memories from his time working for Justice Alito.
Each justice has a legal staff consisting of exactly 4 young lawyers, law clerks. The justice will also usually have 1 or 2 secretaries and 1 or 2 other personnel that assist with the filing and maintenance of the briefs and things like that. But the legal staff consists of just 4 law clerks who serve each for a year at a time, and then they move on. With each oral argument sitting, and typically the Supreme Court will have about 1 sitting per month while it's in session, the law clerks will divide up the cases, and they each have their own system for doing that. Within Justice Alito's chambers, we had kind of an informal draft system where we'd all take turns picking each case when it came time to divide up the cases to be argued in a particular month. And then it's not dependent on the issue, so you don't typically have specialization, issue specialization among the law clerks. They instead will each pick a case. Each law clerk will be assigned several cases for each sitting before the Supreme Court, and then they'll run with that case from that moment forward. They'll prepare the justice for argument. They'll prepare any questions the justice might want to ask at argument. They'll prepare any opinion that the justice might be authoring in that case, provide drafting assistance to the justice, that is, and they'll review with the justice any other opinions authored by other justices in that case. One of the jobs of the Supreme Court law clerk is to prepare the justice for oral argument, to prepare the justice to issue a vote within the conference on each individual case. And so a couple of months before any case is going to be argued, the law clerk assigned to that case within each chambers will take all of the briefs and read all of them and attempt to analyze them and synthesize them, normally in what's called a bench memorandum. Not all justices ask their law clerks to prepare bench memoranda. My justice, Justice Alito, did, and to my knowledge still does, and so we would try to put together all the arguments into one memorandum, outlining the nature of the case and then making a recommendation to the justice on which way the justice should vote and why. And then a day or two before the argument, after all that's been done, after the justice has had time to review the bench memorandum, in Justice Alito's chambers, at least, he would have all 4 law clerks gather in his office, and we'd go through each case that was slated to be argued that week, and each law clerk would defend his or her recommendations outlined in that bench memorandum. And the justice and each of the other law clerks would fire questions, sort of a cross-examination, to make sure that all the bases had been covered. So that's one of the tasks of the law clerk, is to prepare the justice for argument and also to suggest any questions the justice might want to ask at oral argument. After the case has been decided and the opinion has been assigned, then one of the jobs of the law clerk is to assist the justice in preparing an opinion, if that justice is going to be writing an opinion in that case. So that's an important part of it as well. My favorite memory from being a law clerk has to involve the many occasions, the countless occasions when Justice Alito and his 4 law clerks, of which I was one, sat in his office talking about various cases that were coming up for consideration before the court. And we'd spend hours at a time going over the briefs, going over the bench memoranda that had been prepared in that case, going over possible questions the justice might want to ask. We covered almost every conceivable legal issue in the course of those discussions, and it was fascinating. Those have to be my favorites. I also always enjoyed oral argument, as I have since I was about 10 years old, watching oral argument. But as a law clerk, it took on a new flavor, because I was familiar with each case that came up and could anticipate the touch points in that case. It's interesting to watch the law clerks in the Supreme Court while oral arguments are going on. They sit, as you're facing the bench, they sit on the right side of the courtroom, sort of about halfway toward the back. And there's an elaborate system that results in their changing seats between each argument, because with each justice having 4 law clerks, in any given case, only one of those law clerks will be assigned to that case. And there's kind of an informal rule among law clerks that if you're working on the case that's about to be argued, you sit in the front row of the law clerk section. So in between arguments, you see this sort of changing of the guard where they all shuffle seats. It's quite interesting.